If you were a kid in the 80s or 90s, chances are you've heard this song.
I don't want to grow up, I'm a Toys R Us kid. They got a million toys at Toys R Us that I can play with.
It's the Toys R Us jingle. It's catchy, but the lyrics also lay out the company's business plan.
They got the best for so much less, you really flipped your lid.
Toys R Us was founded with a simple idea. Create a toy store that felt like it had every toy in the world, and sell them at competitive prices. That idea worked. Up until 2017, Toys R Us was one of the top retailers in the United States. Until it suddenly wasn't. Toys R Us filed for bankruptcy in 2017, after years of battling declining sales and competitors gobbling up market share. But competition wasn't the company's biggest problem. Toys R Us had billions of dollars of debt that former employees and analysts say pulled the company's focus away from selling toys and towards just trying to stay alive. But for some of its creditors, Toys R Us was worth more to them dead than alive, sparking a liquidation that closed over 700 stores and laid off some 33,000 employees. And some of the creditors who shut it down are the ones trying to bring it back. This is the story of how Toys R Us went bankrupt. Toys R Us began its life in 1948 as a baby furniture store under a different name, after its founder, Charles Lazarus, returned from serving in World War II.
Got in the toy business by pure accident. Somebody came in one day and said, "How about a toy for my baby?" I looked at it and said, "What do you mean a toy?" So the first toys we sold were baby toys, all baby toys.
In 1957, he pivoted completely to toys, renaming the store Toys R Us. Charles Lazarus wanted to sell toys like supermarkets sold groceries, a no-frills store where customers could find everything they needed year-round. His Toys R Us stores were around 45,000 square feet, filled floor to ceiling with some 18,000 toys. Lazarus bought toys in bulk and cut deals directly with manufacturers. Toys R Us was as much a toy warehouse as it was a toy store.
If you really think about it, they weren't particularly pretty stores. They were highly functional. The magic was in the selection, just the sheer profusion of toys, and just the amazement that there was this many toys in the world.
The toys attracted the kids, and the prices attracted the parents.
The hotter the product, the lower the price. G.I. Joe, Transformers, whatever the hottest item was, lowest price.
Toys R Us became one of retail's first category killers by dominating the retail toy market. In the late 80s, 1 out of every $5 spent on toys was at a Toys R Us.
Toys R Us suddenly became this 800-pound gorilla, or maybe it was an 8,000-pound gorilla.
Did we put a lot of people out of business? The answer is yes, we did. And the customer recognized we had a superior assortment and sold at a lesser price, and they came to us.
In 1988, I went into Toys R Us to buy some diapers, and I was a new mom. I applied for a job, and they interviewed me on the spot, and they hired me. I started as a cashier, then I worked in the cash office, and then I was administrative assistant. I did all these things.
Lazarus retired on top of the toy world in 1994. But the company was facing a major threat from discount retailers like Walmart. Toy commercials helped kids decide what toys they wanted before they entered the store. And Walmart was willing to sell some of these toys at a loss to get parents in the door.
Walmart, more than a toy store for less.
We felt it from the customers. There were arguments over not matching the price, and then people would yell, "Oh, I'll go so-and-so, it's cheaper there anyway," and they would yell at us. It wasn't our fault.
Toys R Us tried trimming down its toy selection to stay competitive, but stock prices declined sharply in the 90s. In 1998, Walmart overtook Toys R Us as the #1 toy retailer.
Management became disconnected from the product. It lost the magic. When the magic went away, the people went away.
Toys R Us needed to adapt, so in 2000 it turned to Amazon to sell its toys online. But the deal quickly soured after Amazon allowed other toy retailers onto its web store. Toys R Us sued and eventually left the platform in 2006, leaving it to relaunch its e-commerce business on its own. The category killer was being killed in its own category, to the point where Toys R Us was looking for a way out of the toy business. The company wanted to sell off its toy stores and focus on its growing Babies R Us brand. Instead, in 2005, the company was bought by a real estate investment trust and two private equity firms for $6.6 billion. The sale was a leveraged buyout, meaning it was financed largely by debt.
I honestly didn't know what a private equity firm was or what they did. The spin to the employees were that this is a good thing. Everything changed after that.
Leveraged buyouts were popular in the early 2000s. Private equity firms bought up public companies with cheap and available debt, often using the company's assets as collateral. At first, the company looked like it could turn itself around under new leadership. It consolidated stores and made smart bets on hot toys, like Zuzu Pets in 2009. It came up with new retail concepts and made plans to go public again in 2010.
But it seemed like none of these ever really got past the concept stage. There just wasn't the money there to put into much needed improvements to the stores.
Toys R Us was paying $400 million annually paying down its debt. The company was also relying on holiday sales to turn a profit. Toys R Us stayed afloat by applying what it called financial band-aids. This involved refinancing multiple loans that were backed by various parts of the company. Toys R Us couldn't clean up its stores or keep up with its competitors. Revenues decreased between 2012 and 2017.
There was nothing that was going to happen that was going to cover that debt. They were just kicking the can down the road. And eventually the road came to an end and they fell off a cliff.
In the summer of 2017, with major debt payments looming, Toys R Us tried to quietly refinance its loans. But when toy vendors caught wind, they demanded cash up front for upcoming holiday deliveries. The CEO at the time, David Brandon, said, "The timing of all this could not have been worse." On September 19, 2017, the company filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy.
I was at work that day. Dave Brandon then has like this conference call. "I just want to reassure all of you that you are all safe. Your jobs are all safe. We are just restructuring a loan."
David Brandon said he doesn't remember the details of the call, but said he wouldn't have made assurances to employees about jobs or store closures.
We thought they would go into a Chapter 11 situation, be able to reorganize as a smaller chain, but still a functioning chain.
But holiday earnings took a major hit in 2017 due to a perfect storm of problems that had been exacerbated by the bankruptcy. By February 2018, Toys R Us announced it would be closing hundreds of stores in order to stay afloat.
My store manager was the opening manager, and she said, "It's us." I said, "What?" She said, "Our store is closing." We would either be offered a local position in one of the other local stores, or we could take the usual severance. 29 years in, I should at least get 14 and a half weeks of severance. It's 3.5 months. I was like, I'll be okay.
But a group of creditors listed in the bankruptcy filings as the B4 lenders held an important portion of Toys R Us's debt, giving them significant influence in deciding the company's future. This group, led by hedge fund Solus Alternative Asset Management, owned about $1 billion of the company's debt that was secured with Toys R Us's intellectual property, like the logo and Jeffrey the Giraffe. Solus had increased its stake in the B4 debt over the course of the bankruptcy. The B4 lenders had influence. For several months, they had waived financial requirements to keep the company operating through bankruptcy. But Toys R Us was running out of cash, and when the B4 lenders said they would extend the waiver for a week only if Toys R Us stopped paying its landlords and some of its vendors, the bankruptcy fell apart. With its back against the wall, Toys R Us decided to liquidate on March 15, 2018. The fallout was immediate.
I lay in bed at night thinking about that childhood store. Don't want to face the fact it's closing all its doors.
Well, this may be our last trip here. Bye, Toys R Us. Thanks for the memories.
In a cruel twist of fate, Charles Lazarus died a week later. Toys R Us had owed key toy vendors nearly $350 million going into the bankruptcy, and had continued to order products from them throughout the holiday season. All U.S. store employees were informed they would be laid off, and that they would not be receiving any severance pay. Here's how David Brandon announced the liquidation at the Toys R Us headquarters.
I want you to know that I don't agree with many of the aspects of how this is being done, but I want to assure you that I have no choice, nor do I have any authority to change it. The last several years have been difficult, right? But I can say with great certainty that the last 6 months has been pure hell.
There were 33,000 people that lost their jobs. I was planning my retirement, so this literally changed my life. I'm almost 60 years old. Who's gonna wanna hire me? I'm almost 60 years old and I'm not going to have health insurance.
Former employees partnered with advocacy group United for Respect to push their former private equity owners to pay severance. They staged protests and lobbied members of Congress. Former owners Bain Capital and KKR eventually established a $20 million severance fund for laid-off employees.
And everybody got some money. It wasn't what we were owed by any means, but it was something. It was better than nothing.
Solis and other B4 creditors had acquired the Toys R Us brand and intellectual property. A spokesperson for Solis said its involvement with Toys R Us has been misrepresented, and that it was a constructive force in the process that led True Kids to ultimately emerge. True Kids Brands, launched in 2019, is the new parent company of Toys R Us. The new company has opened 2 pop-up experiences and plans on opening 2 new concept stores, all bearing the Toys R Us name. It's also partnered with Target to relaunch its e-commerce business. 11 of the 14 members of the True Kids Brands leadership team were Toys R Us employees at the time of the liquidation, according to court documents and their LinkedIn profiles. A spokesperson for True Kids said the company has hired former Toys R Us employees to staff its experiences and has made efforts to hire others as well.
Right after all this, we had a big toy event in Dallas, and the new brand holders, they had Jeffrey the giraffe, their mascot, wave at us as we all entered. Felt mocking in a way. We didn't cost you all that money, we didn't cost you all that worry, here we are, I'm Jeffrey the giraffe. At the time I thought to myself, I don't know whether to hug him or punch him in the face.
I don't think I would want to work for them again. I would rather struggle and work 2 and 3 part-time jobs like I'm doing than work for them again. You treated me badly once, I'm not going back again.
True Kids still believes there's value in the Toys R Us brand, but it remains to be seen whether Toys R Us still has enough magic to create a whole new generation of Toys R Us kids.